This Dopey Podcast is coming in your ear with heroin and ketamine, sobriety and beer. Dave and that other guy, you know, the hot one everybody wants to fuck. Just thought I'd throw in a visual for the listeners. Now you know. Good luck. So pull up a chair, start the car. Let's get on the road. Hey, let's go. The Dopey Podcast is starting up. Welcome to the show.
Time for Dopey.
And I'm gonna sing a song for you.
Dave Chris gonna show you a thing or two.
You'll have some fun now with me and all the gang, learning from each other while we do our thing. Na, 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 gonna have a good time. Hey, na, na, gonna have a good
This is Dave and Chris coming at you with music and fun. And if you're not careful, you might learn something before it's done. Hey, hey, hey.
This episode of Dopey is brought to you by our very good friends at Aurora Recovery. They're located in sunny Southern California. They were created by Bob Forrest and his friends, Evan, Jared, and Bob. Their mission to create a treatment facility that runs on compassion and connection rather than control. Amazing. They have decades and decades of experience in treating co-occurring mental health disorders, including SMI. They make sure that your detox is as comfortable as possible, which is what we all would love, a comfortable detox. It's the dream of anybody detoxing anything. Everyone that I've ever known that has been there has only said positive things, and there's no hyperbole there. That's 100% true. If you're fucked and you're willing to go to sunny Southern California, you got to go to Oro. But this is not an Oro commercial without talking about the amenities. Sound bath meditation, surfing, equine therapy, the potentially spiritually transformative sweat lodge. Go to Oro. Go to ororecovery.com and get some help. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our very good friends at Your Sober Buddy. What is Your Sober Buddy? It is an app. It is basically like having a sober buddy right in your phone. What does this app do? It helps you to get and to maintain your sobriety. How does it do it? With mindfulness challenges, with things that keep you connected to the bigger picture. They also have an amazing social media account where you can go on there and there's lives and there's community and there's fun. When I say lives, it means you go in there and you can interact with different personalities, talking recovery, talking mindfulness, talking positive, living a good life thing. Even I'm in there sometimes. So go to yoursoberbuddy.com. Go to the Google Play Store, go to the iTunes App Store, and download the app. You get the first week free, not to mention they have a free sober tracker, so check them out. Again, it's yoursoberbuddy.com. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our friends at SoberLink. We need to talk about alcohol recovery in the workplace. Talking about sobriety and proving it to your employer can be so difficult, and our friends at SoberLink want to help. If you need a reliable way to present documented proof of sobriety to a boss or a loved one, SoberLink can help. SoberLink is a high-tech portable breathalyzer system that uses facial recognition technology to verify your identity. It has unique sensors to ensure that no other air sources are being used, and it sends direct results to your specified contacts. So there's no questioning whether or not you took the test and whether or not you altered the reporting. This is why SoberLink's remote alcohol monitoring system is considered the gold standard. Being in recovery from alcohol does not define the future of your career or your family. Let SoberLink help. Learn more about SoberLink and request an exclusive $50 off promo code by visiting www.soberlink.com/dopey. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by Evolution Accounting and Consulting. If you are a business owner, a startup owner, an entrepreneur with a vision, check out Evolution Accounting and Consulting. They are a full-service accounting firm that can help you with your taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, and any other business need you may have. Their biggest passion is to help dreamers pursue their dreams so that these guys can cover your back end. Their passion allows you to pursue yours because they understand the stress caused by worrying about taxes and accounting issues. They take care of that for you. They understand the stress mostly because the owner of Evolution Accounting and Consulting is a fucking crackhead. That's right, a fucking crackhead. Fortunately, he's been in recovery for years now, and he knows the struggle as well as the success. Use the promo code DOPEY when you connect with them at www.evolution-accounting.com to receive special discounts.
Hello, my name is Rivka Reyes. You might know me as the bassist from School of Rock or as a former guest on this very podcast that you're listening to right now. I want to tell you about my newest project, a short film called Gianna. Gianna! Yeah. Gianna is about a queer addict who takes a suggestion from her therapist to spend time with her inner saboteur a little too far. It's a cross between Jennifer's Body and Fight Club and features an all-queer, all-people of color cast. We're currently crowdfunding on Seed and Spark and would love your support. Plus, if you pledge, you get access to some fabulous perks, including tarot readings, birth chart readings, personalized songs, and more. We've only got until November 2nd to reach our goal, so visit our page at gianna.movie. That's GIANNA.MOVIE to join Jack Black, Rachel Bloom, Emma Hunton, and over 100 other independent film supporters to help me make my dreams come true. I think Gianna is really going to help a lot of people, which means your support of Gianna will also help a lot of people. Once again, our website is gianna.movie. That's GIANNA.MOVIE. Gianna! Yeah.
All right, before we get to the show, I want to tell you guys about an amazing podcast called Recovery in the Middle Ages. It is all about two middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. Listen as they discuss current topics of interest to the recovery community, including 12-step, alt recovery, the newest medical research, and talk about their daily struggle to maintain their recovery and anonymity in the world of soccer moms and PTA meetings. If the neighbors only knew. Find Recovery in the Middle Ages on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Basically, wherever you find anything, you can find Recovery in the Middle Ages, or go to middleagesrecovery.com. And now, before we get to the show, we have the Forever in Debt limited edition shit. Check it out. Forever in Debt limited edition shit. Go to dopeypodcast.com. Pre-order. We're shipping it out first week in November. It's looking pretty beautiful. We've got so much good stuff at dopeypodcast.com. We also have Patreon. There's so much exclusive stuff on Patreon. Last week, I had an interview with a Dopey Nation member who produced a Melvin's record. He discovered the Black Eyed Peas. His name is Al. It was an awesome conversation. Also, we did a bonus Ask Aaron on there. I talked about some really, really secret Dopey beef. Next week, me and Aurora are going to be breaking down Game of Thrones, House of Dragons. So don't be a sucker and a cheapskate. Go to dopeypatreon.com. Actually, that's not where you go. You go to patreon.com/dopeypodcast. Also, there is a Dopey Zoom marathon this weekend, so go check it out. I will post the Zoom address. Actually, here's the Zoom address right now. It's 804-300-586. Get crazy camaraderie with the Dopey Nation all weekend long, and I'm doing a free Dopey Patreon Zoom Sunday night, so go check that out. Enough with the ads. Here's the fucking show. Welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave, and did you know that you, Aurora, are very popular in the Dopey Nation, and due to popular demand, back on the scene, my good friend Aurora, welcome back to the show.
Yo. Hi. Happy to be back.
Did you say yo, yo, yo?
Yeah. I told you that we watched an episode of YoMTV Raps. Actually, I told my partner, I started calling Jeff, my boyfriend, my partner, because I think it sounds like more serious. But then I'm like always afraid to say partner. I'm like, will people think I'm a lesbian if I say partner?
They will. Or they think it's your business partner.
This week I made like a declaration like, we have fucking gotten way too far away from hip hop and we're not listening to enough hip hop and we have to listen to more hip hop.
So
basically.
So to deal with that, you listen to you watch YoMTV Raps.
No, that was before my declaration. And we watched YoMTV Raps a few weeks ago after a Survivor episode. But yeah, this week I listened to Rap Caviar on Spotify, that playlist, which has like a lot of new hip hop tracks, just to see like what's out there. Because I've listened to Kendrick Lamar's record a ton this year, but that is it. Have you listened to that record?
No, I don't listen to anything, any kind of current stuff. But I did listen to Gangstar featuring Nice and Smooth Dwick yesterday twice.
Nice.
So,
I think you should listen to some. I've been saying that to you for years, though, that you should listen to some more current things.
Yeah, my brain can't handle it. But what I want to know is that on the YoMTV Raps episode you watched with your partner, what era was it? What videos came up?
Oh God, what Eric B and Rakim, Mobb Deep. Jeff would remember more. I mean, I wanted to see, it was Grand Poobah and Mary J. Blige, so they performed live at the end. What's the 411? Arrested video, which like really made my fucking heart sing. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. Let me turn my notifications off. I could watch much more of it.
Yeah, I haven't seen YoMTV Raps in a minute, but I've been like getting ready for an interview with this guy named Dante Ross, who was like one of the biggest A&R people around all the biggest 90s hip hop, including Grand Poobah. So I think I'm going to take the plunge as well. But more importantly than your hip hop consumption. Oh, you want to hear something that's fucking annoying? Oh shit, I didn't shut my notifications off. You want to hear something more annoying than your hip hop consumption, but it's kind of similar?
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right, so
that's annoying. I don't even talk like that. I'm like talking like that for like fucking radio or something.
I don't know.
Just tell me.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what this new radio persona you have. But Wu-Tang Clan has an exclusive partnership with the Knicks, where they're putting out this hoodie called Woo York Knicks, right? And it's got a Wu-Tang logo and a Knicks logo together, and then on the back it says 36 Shaolin. And I look at it. Guess how much they want for it?
I'm gonna guess $170.
It was $100, right? $100 hoodie, and I was like, I can't buy it. I can't buy the $100 hoodie. I can't do it. And then like 2 days go by, and email says, you didn't buy. Email messages me, you missed out on this deal. And I was like, oh boy, I really did want to buy that hoodie. And I go back in and I'm like, no, I can't do it. Because with shipping and shit, it was like 117. I was like, I can't do that. That's crazy. And then 2 days more go by and it says, are you sure you want to miss out on that offer? And I'm like, no, I don't want to miss out. And I go in to buy the $117 hoodie and it had sold out.
Sold out. Yeah. You should have bought it.
I know. Like I'm so cheap.
From the get, Dave.
I know. I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. Anyway.
You're cheap. You should have bought it.
I know. But more importantly, we are coming up on your 7-year anniversary. How do you feel, Aurora?
I have 6 years. I do not have 7 years.
You have 6 years, 11 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days.
24 hours. I have 24 hours.
24 hours.
That's kind of like
24 hours since when? When does the
Since
24 hour?
yesterday.
No, you don't. You have like 12 hours since yesterday. What are you talking about?
That's true. I have 24 hours. That's how I actually
You don't
was thinking
even
about
go
it
to
yesterday.
meetings. You don't even go to meetings.
Yes, I do. I told you I started going back.
All right, so break it down. So how do you feel with your 12 hours or whatever you want to say? How do you feel today?
I feel pretty good today. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to having 7 years in a couple weeks. And I think when I was listening to the Kat Von D interview, though, it did strike me as like, you know, she was talking about, oh, she had 15 years, but like also, I think she might have said like that. Maybe I can't remember if she did say she had a day or whatever, but just, you know, I've heard that a lot in meetings, but you know, the like kind of the preciousness of your sobriety, like it would be very easy to lose all that time. So really, you know, it's always helpful to think about things in a 24-hour period. Like, you know, I'm sober today.
All right, Sensei. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
There's this woman, Maya Solovitz, who was at DopeyCon, and she's not in 12-step recovery. I don't think she's abstinent, but she argues that, like, and a lot of people talk about this, and I'm sure you've heard people talk about it. People who relapse, who had a bunch of time, right, and then they come back and they say, well, I didn't lose the 10 years I had. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had 10 years, I relapsed, but I didn't lose the 10 years. What do you have to say about that, Sensei Aurora?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree that like you don't lose. I mean, I don't think you could then say like I have 12 years after you've been back for 2, but like, yeah, you don't lose that time. I mean, you know what a sober life is like.
Totally. I once had a guy on who had like 12 years, started doing Vicodin as prescribed, then didn't do them as prescribed, then said he relapsed, but kept saying he had the 12 years. But I mean, honestly, it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what anyone says. All that matters is how you feel. You know what I mean? If you don't feel comfortable saying I have 7 years, coming up on 7 years, and you want to say I have 24 hours, that's great. And if you have 10 years and you relapse, and you say, well, I had 10 years, but however you want to tell your story, it's on you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just people get so stupid with that shit. Like, it only means something if it means something to you.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm glad. It's nice that you agree.
I mean,
with me.
I think some of those people maybe in meetings that get hung up on stuff is like, you know, you want people to be honest, right? And addicts and alcoholics, a lot of times, like, we're not honest, and we're especially not honest with ourselves. So like, if you have relapse, like, you want to get honest that, like, you know, that you have to start fresh, you know, that you are starting from the beginning again, or ground zero, you know?
My favorite thing with relapse is finding out what happened. You know, like, where the meeting that we used to go to every day, somebody would say, the way I avoid relapse is am I going to a meeting? Am I talking to another alcoholic or an addict? Am I working with a sponsor? Am I working with a sponsee? You remember when they used to say that every day?
Yeah.
And I don't hear that at my meeting. You know, they don't say that at the meeting I go to. But I like that because it's like it's like a bundle up against relapse. If you do all those things, you're probably not going to. I like that. It's like an assurance. It's an insurance policy to avoid it.
I remember one that always struck me was like, when I pray in the morning, I ask God to keep me sober. And I don't know anybody who's ever relapsed who like started the day with that prayer.
All right.
That always resonated with me.
You stopped going to meetings for a long time. Why don't you share about that period, that dark period of your recovery?
Oh my God, insane. It's so funny how like you like to compare and despair, me and you, like to think about what like the fire that burned in me in the beginning and all the meetings I went to and how involved in AA I was, and you were not, and like how our roles have flip-flopped, and now you're like fucking Susie AA with a million sponsees, and I like stopped going to meetings. It's ironic, Dave.
Well, how was that? No, I'm not asking to judge you. I'm serious. Like, how was it without going to meetings? Is it that much different? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, there was something. I went to this meeting. So I started going to some meetings in North Carolina where I have a house.
With your partner.
With my partner. And so I pretty much kind of live here now. And I started going to meetings here. And went to a step meeting last week. We were reading out of the 12 and 12. And there was something in step 10, like about, about if you relapse, like the minute you get away from the program, and like if you relapse and you start drinking, like it's as bad as it was, like very quickly, right? Like,
so explain that to me.
Like, that story in the Big Book about the guy that like he didn't drink for 25 or 35 years.
The carpet slippers.
And then, he was as bad as in a few years' time, he was as bad an alcoholic as he had been, and he was dead, even though he'd had all those 25 years of sobriety. Like it didn't, so long story short, basically I didn't go out and use, but like my thinking, I'm an untreated alcoholic without a program, and my thinking and my behavior gets really crazy. And meaning like, all I think about is myself. I don't try to lead with love and compassion. I want to always be right. Like all these character defects, basically. So I think that's, part of the reason why I went back to meetings. But you know what? Let's get really fucking honest. The reason I probably am going back to meetings is because I'm sick of being inside my fucking house. I'm like, I work from home. And so does my boyfriend. And like, I'm just like sick of it. Like I need to get out of the fucking house. I like only have one friend here in North Carolina. And like, I'm like, let me go to meetings just to like be able to fucking go somewhere.
And so like, it's is your one friend Jenny?
Yeah.
Well, you got one crazy friend.
I got one crazy friend here. If I want to get really honest, I mean, even getting sober, like, I wanted that 90-day coin because I'm crazy and competitive. I didn't really want to get sober. Like right now, I didn't really want to get back to meetings, but I'm like going fucking stir crazy in this house and I got nowhere to go and no friends. So I'm like, I'll go to a fucking evening meeting.
Well, that makes sense. And you can make friends there too.
Oh, please.
You don't like,
way.
You haven't seen anybody that you like there. No.
Actually, there's one woman that seems cool. Yeah.
I told you, I'm trying to work with this new sponsee guy, and he's like, "Can you drive me to the meeting?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he gets in the car, and he's like, "I just got out of the VA," and I'm like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I was in the Navy," and I was like, "Well, what did you do in the Navy?" And he goes, "I was a combat medic," and I went, "Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer was a combat medic too."
I don't think he was.
He was. Did you watch this show?
I watched a little bit of the scripted one.
Yes.
I watched a little bit of it, but it made me honestly like, it felt so, I just kept thinking about the people's families. I was like, I mean, I have no problem watching like a true crime,
right,
like kind of like archival doc about
right,
Jeffrey Dahmer, but something like with the dramatized version made me feel like really fucking skeevy. Like
I'm watching it with Linda. It is so terrifying to me, and it makes me so uncomfortable. And I'm like, all night I'm just like, this is, and I'm having nightmares, like total fucking trauma nightmares. Like Susan woke us up in the middle of the night, and I was in the middle of like a terrifying nightmare, and I was like, I can't go in there, and I couldn't even connect like where I was, and from like that show fucks me up. And I'm like, Linda, this is horrible. We can't watch it. And she's like, shut the fuck up. If you didn't like the show, you wouldn't watch it with me. And she's right. I'm sitting there watching the whole show with her. And it's like,
yeah.
And I also believe if Jeffrey Dahmer's alcoholism was treated, this would not have happened. Every person he fucking killed in a blackout.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah. Horrible. So I had more AA stuff to talk about. Timed sharing. Okay. I want to talk about timed sharing. At my meeting, they don't have timed sharing. And you know what this guy does? The chair that, I don't know if I told you about this. The chairperson he waits till there's 10 minutes left in the meeting, and then he decides he's going to give the end of the meeting address for 10 minutes.
No.
Every fucking Saturday he does it. I hope he doesn't listen to the show because he's going to get pissed. But if you don't get in there before 8:50 on Saturday, this dude is going to give his address at the end like he's fucking Abraham Lincoln. What the fuck is that?
Well, I mean, I've only been to 3 different meetings here in North Carolina so far, because there is one literally like it is a 1-minute drive from my house. It could not be more convenient. Another reason why I'm going. But there's no time sharing. No, there is no time sharing. People just, the first meeting I went to was a tradition meeting. I was like, oh, this is fucking, this is just my luck that I would walk into a tradition meeting for my first meeting back. Oh, I think it was 10. I can't remember.
What is
Maybe
that?
9.
What is that tradition?
9. No, tradition 9.
What is that tradition? You don't know.
I can't remember.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, and do they have time sharing? And
I think it's about service organizations. I think it's tradition 9. But a woman, the speaker, untimed speaker, sharing with outside literature. She had like 3 different meditation and self-help books she was quoting from. Then it was untimed sharing. I was like, how the fuck do people stay sober here?
Untimed sharing. Oh my God. It's unbelievable.
And then they have speaker meetings, but the speaker speaks for 50 minutes. There's no sharing.
5-0.
I went to another meeting. They don't tell what it's just very different. LA and New York are very organized. There's no talk about what the format is of the meeting. So it's like, you don't know, like, do you read a chapter from the big book and then everyone shares? Also, like, there's, if people want to read, they just shout out and read. You don't go around the room. I find it lack of structure.
My whole meeting is that nobody gets called on. If you want to share, you just have to talk. The whole meeting every day. That's how we do it. But I have a voicemail.
And is it just discussion?
Huh?
Is it just discussion?
Well,
like, is there like a topic, or is there literature or speaker?
No, every day is different. It's like today we read from the worst book, the Came to Believe book. It's like, fucking Came to Believe. That's the worst.
And also people here shared double. Like, so there was a silence in the room. And so somebody that had already shared again.
Did they say, do you mind if I double dip?
No, thank God they didn't say that. But it's also like, it's like the craziest people, or the people that share too long are the ones that share twice. It's just like, let's get some fucking rules in place here, people.
Well, you need strict control. I know you. You need strict control.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna start attending some business meetings.
That's what I said. I said I'm gonna go to the business meeting and say I want time sharing, and they were like, it's in the group conscience. You're gonna have to it's never gonna happen. But there's a guy at my beach meeting, and he told me this dopey story. And do you want to hear it?
No.
Well, just shut up.
Just tell the fucking story. All right. I was working in Rikers Island, and I like to smoke weed. And
you smoke weed while you worked?
Yeah, every day. So we started working, and we have a big pit we dug, and the guys are down about 30 feet in a hole. There's a mini excavator down there, and a 10-inch hose feeding some air down there.
Hold on, so you're above the solitary confinement?
Yes, I'm up on the road, and with the barbed wire around and all the cameras. And so I started smoking my one hitter, and
is it like a little bat, or is it the glass one?
Yeah, it's a little like a little bat, one hitter, and I figured I'd blow it through the fan that actually feeds the air down there. So I sat on a pail and realized after the one hitter there was too many guys down there, so I had to go get a bigger one. I got my big bowl, and taking one for the team, I fed about 6 guys. And I would blow it down there, and had the engineer video on it. It was pretty cool, so I could show my friends. And they loved it. The super would keep yelling at me, "Stop it, Sean." That's when I blow more. And I had the guys taking their hard hats off and putting this tench line over their head. They walked out of there sideways. It was good. I told them I took one for the team, I don't really get stoned. I smoke all day, and I don't know. I think I get fired up. It's like cocaine, you know.
It energizes
It
you.
fucking energizes me.
What we
know?
need to know, we need to get a hold of some of the guys from Rikers who were in the hole that day, who were imagining that smoke came down and blessed them. Do you think that you got some people high, or you think it didn't get anybody high?
Oh, they got high. And if you want, we can line them up to talk next.
Thank you, Sean.
So what do you think about that?
Wait, what did he say? He was working construction at Rikers, and then he started blowing his weed smoke into like where prisoners were? What?
Yes. He was working above solitary confinement at Rikers Island, and he had a video of it that he showed me. And he's taking these giant pulls off this pipe and blowing it down into solitary confinement. So what do you think about that, Aurora?
I think it's a very stony thing to do.
Yeah, this guy's a total fucking stoner. He's still smoking weed every day. He hasn't had a drink in like 20 years, but he smokes weed every day.
But he goes to meetings.
Yeah, he's trying to work a program while he's smoking weed every day. But he's a good guy. Let's not judge Sean. I like him.
No. Keep coming back, Sean.
Keep coming. You're in therapy, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in therapy.
Is it in person or online?
I'm in online therapy.
Nice.
Until I have to find a new therapist that's in the network though, because my old therapist doesn't take any insurance and it's very expensive.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because this episode of Dopey is brought to you guys by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Do you go to therapy to help you solve problems rather than getting spun out on the problem, Aurora? Do you go there for solutions?
Yes, indeed.
For sure. A therapist can help you deal with the washing machine that is your brain and help you become a better problem solver. What personal experiences with therapy, like why would you recommend someone gets online therapy, Rory?
I mean, I think, a little self-reflection, somebody else to kind of bounce stuff off of is always a good idea.
Definitely. Unload stress, you get emotional healing, help with anxiety and depression. And if you're thinking of getting therapy, BetterHelp is an amazing option because it's so convenient, it's accessible, it's affordable, it's totally online. You don't have to worry if they're in network or not. You get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey, and you can switch therapists at any time. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/dopeypodcast and you can get 10% off your first month. Pretty good deal, right, Aurora?
Pretty good deal, yeah.
That's betterhelp.com/dopeypodcast. So go get your therapy, Rory. Maybe you should do BetterHelp and get the discount.
That's a good. I'll try it. I'll see if I connect.
Awesome. Very good. And now we have a kind of dopey reality show superstar, right?
Yeah, she's a big deal.
She's a big deal. Here she is, Kat Von D. I am joined via Zoom with the lovely and incredibly talented Kat Von D, fucking musician, singer, tattoo artist, author, best-selling author, I should say, makeup designer. Welcome to Dopey.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Are you kidding me? So I was just reading that you gave up all of your occult stuff.
Yes, I did. Well, I mean, I had a collection over the years of all kinds of different literature. And, I think when I post, I usually don't post stuff like that too often, but some of my favorite philosophers are like Friedrich Nietzsche and things like that, like a lot of like the classics that really like hone in on the idea of accountability. And so when I think about all of these other it's a little bit hard to talk about it because I don't want to ever put anybody down or anybody's I think everybody's on their own journey in their own way, and some things help people in ways and some things don't. And for me, I just felt like I was kind of like not hiding behind things, but using things as a crutch versus like just, facing life head on. And so, I love certain elements of different like wisdom books, but I did find that there was, parts of some of the literature I had that didn't really align with who I am today and who I want to be. And so it's not like throwing them away as getting rid of like demonic entities in the house. It was just more symbolic for me of like, hey, like I want to move away from certain things, and it's not changing, my style or, the things that I gravitate towards, like I'm not going to dress like a mom or, get rid of like all the stuff with skulls on it. It's not that at all. I mean, I got rid of a lot of like my meditation stuff too, I think, and some people were kind of confused by that, but I feel like, I was doing transcendental meditation for a long time, and it helped me, with anxiety and things like that. And I think that meditation is good for a lot of people. What I would like to do is just like master my ability to face my problems without the crutch of those things. Like instead of just saying a mantra over and over and hypnotizing myself, just, facing things head on and be okay. And, this is just my own journey. It's not something that I'm like, oh, everybody should be like me and do this or do that. And I think some people took offense from that post, thinking that I was attacking maybe their belief system or, the things that they're into. But, I have tons of friends that still, that are really close to me that love tarot and they love crystals and all that stuff. And for me, I'm not looking to find answers through things like that. I'd rather find it through myself and just living life, clearly in that way, if that makes any sense.
It does. It sounds like you got a lot of backlash for that post.
I would say 90% was positive, though. I think everybody was like, I think there's a lot of people that are kind of going through similar things. And if I help somebody feel less alone in that process, I mean, that's why I'm always very open about my sobriety. Sobriety isn't for everybody. I have tons of friends that can have a beer or have a drink or smoke weed or whatever. I personally, I'm not one of those people. Like if I have one of anything, I just destroy my life, and people are built differently. So what works for me might not work for others.
No, I can totally relate to that. And it was a great John Lennon song that once said, I don't believe in tarot. I just believe in me. And like, honestly, like if you throw away books or you move away from meditation or whatever, it's like housekeeping. It's like spring cleaning in a way. And if something journeys back into your life, you're like, oh, I miss chanting. It's not like you're never going to be able to chant again. If you want to chant one day, you can always do that. I got tired of listening to Led Zeppelin for years, and now I'm enjoying Led Zeppelin again. So I mean, good for you. I mean,
and I have like a pretty expansive library. I mean, that little stack, I mean, I have over 500 books that I've read and that I've collected and stuff. But there was another stack of books that I threw away as well that were like, at the time I thought were entertaining or just have like certain artwork that, that appealed to me, that now that I have a kid, I don't really want him reading that stuff, like, I know it sounds silly, but like, I love Robert Crumb, I think I love his story, his artistic abilities, but do I want my kid looking through those types of images at an early age on accident? No, I don't, And so it's not, I think people thought I had like this like aha moment, but it's actually been, I've been kind of gravitating towards these changes for quite some time. It's not like it just happened overnight. And like I said, it works for some people and for some it doesn't, and that's okay.
No, I get it. It's funny because I have 2 kids, I have 2 daughters, and a few Christmases ago, my wife gave me a Robert Crumb book, like all these Robert Crumb cartoons. And, my older daughter was like, can I look at that? And I was like, hold on, let me look. And I was like, absolutely not.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, not now. Give it another 15 years and then you can check it out. But it's funny, because one of the first things you just said was, I'm not going to start dressing like a mom. And I'm sure there's millions of moms who are aligned with how you dress and how you think. Yeah. And it's just like, you're not going to dress like a classic soccer mom. But do you think one day you're going to be at like an Indiana fucking soccer game on the sidelines? That would be, oh man, I hope that happens.
I mean, look, I take my kid to like the trampoline park and like I'm dressed like this jumping around, and I just don't, I was talking about this to my bandmate Greg yesterday, actually, because we were filming a music video. And, I was wearing like a full latex cat suit with like a skeleton print thing. And, he was wearing a crazy outfit too. And it's like, and we're getting older and stuff, but I'm like, I think like I'm never going to stop being who I am. And if anything, I think it'll be even cooler as I get older. I'll be like, the weird old lady with like red lipstick and too much eyeliner. And, I'm a character and like my kid loves it. And like to him, I am a classic mom. I'm just my own version of that. But yeah, will I be attending my kids' soccer games? Of course, and I'll just be myself.
just out of curiosity, real quick, did you prefer the Munsters or the Addams Family?
Both. I mean, I think it's funny because I have a contortionist in my band named Bryn. She's like a pure athlete and she has like, bright blonde hair and she's like the sweetest and cutest. But every now and then she'll say some dark shit. And I'm like, oh, you're like the Lily Munster of our crew, No,
she's like the Marilyn. She's like the cousin Marilyn, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, not Lily. Yeah. Like she's our Marilyn. And it's funny to me. But yeah, no, I like both of them.
I love the Munsters.
Yeah.
So first important question. We'll move away from these. Oh, I wanted to ask about Aleister Crowley before we moved away from this. Like I was, I was never like into the occult. I was more occult adjacent and I was interested in people that were interested in the occult. And I was interested, Aleister Crowley was an interesting character. Did you ever read that book, Diary of a Drug Fiend?
No, I've heard of it.
He wrote this book called Diary of a Drug Fiend about, it was like World War II pilot, and Aleister Crowley writes about himself as this kind of demonic priest, and it's crazy. Yeah. It's a crazy book. But like, I have a friend of mine who's very fearful of Satan and Satanism and all this shit. And he's like, you can, and I don't want to take this interview to a bad place. So hold on to your chair. Hold on to your chair for a second. And he was like, you can make contact with demons very easily and all this kind of stuff. And that was my first reaction when I'm Googling you and the first things that I'm reading are Kat Von D, is getting rid of her occult stuff. Were you ever intrigued with that kind of stuff, demonology and contacting dark forces to help you on your way sort of thing?
No, I mean, I was never like selling my soul but I think like, even from an early age, like whether you believe in like Ouija boards, and I've always been like, why invite that energy into your life? So I never fucked around with that stuff.
Scary.
It could be. I mean, to a certain degree, I feel pretty strong in my path and where I'm at that like, well, personally, I've never seen a ghost. I've never experienced, I have a lot of friends that are level-headed, and that have had certain experiences, and I trust that they're telling the truth, but I personally haven't. And it's not to say that, it doesn't exist if you don't see it, but I just feel like, are you ready to die? That like, for me, I just know that if today was my last day, I would feel like my side of the fence is clean. And there's like a certain, it might sound a little bit morbid, but like, I'm not afraid of that. Do I want to live? Of course. I want to see my kid grow up and do all, grow old and die happy. But if something were to happen, I would be at peace with that. And I'm not scared of that. So like the idea of like a demon or something like that, like, or, the word demon is a funny word because like, to me, I feel like there are demons in this world, and it's not necessarily like a man with horns. I think like the internet is demonic. I think, the idea of wanting more than what you have can possess you. You're no longer in control. You're not making conscious decisions. And so that's kind of how I see like, the light and the dark. And, I've read all the Aleister Crowley books that I had and that I threw away. And I can see how some people might find some of those teachings appealing, but there's other sides to it that I feel like I don't want any part of that. So it's interesting. I think it is a little bit black and white for me. It's like there's a certain path, and anything that kind of that pulls me away from that path is not a good thing. And it's something that I would want to work to stay away from. But, it doesn't mean that I don't fall prey to it. I mean, I'm human, I have feelings of, envy at times, or, we have our own struggles. And I think as long as we can practice not letting that consume us, that's the key, I mean, it's kind of like drugs in that sense. To me, I feel like drugs are a demonic possession. I have friends that, and you do too, that like when they're sober, like they're great people. And if they relapse or slip up, like it's an alien, it's not the same person. So yeah, that's kind of how I see like demonology working, it doesn't have to be like The Exorcist per se.
Totally. No, I appreciate that. And the thing I loved about your post more than anything was how you want to be drawn to the light, like to good things, like good energy. And like, I love good energy, and I love the sentiment seems hokey and it seems like understated, but like, again, being a parent, being a person in recovery, wanting to have fun, wanting to spread joy, wanting to enjoy my life. Like those things are so important. Like just to, if you go into the closet and you want the devil to come grant you some wishes, I want to have my life to be as fun as it can be and full of light and joy. And we can incant those things. And which is why I related to your post.
Yeah. I think I think I offended a lot of like the Wiccan community because, from some of the comments I saw was just like, they don't want to be put in the same sentence as Aleister Crowley. And I get that. But to me, it's like I said, it's not just the satanic shit. It's like the meditation stuff or whatever that wasn't working for me. Like I love a lot of the things that I've learned through the Wiccan literature that I had. Like I love being connected to nature. I love herbology. I love, feeling connected in that sense. But I think when you start falling into like spell work and the idea of like, in my mind, what I call like the natural course of things, like when we try to manipulate the natural course of things for selfish needs, I don't think that's a good thing. And, like even prayer, like my son and I pray every night before we go to bed. I ask him what are his favorite 3 things of the day, and we give gratitude for that. It's not like, I think that praying and asking for the car of your dreams or whatever, that you're almost manipulating that natural course versus like just a sense of gratitude. You have to be careful what you're asking for, I think. And this is just how I live my life. It's not, I'm sure a lot of people on all sides would disagree, and that's okay,
Totally. And the Wiccans in the Dopey Nation, I know, appreciate your thought, because there's a lot of Wiccans in the Dopey Nation. So Wiccans like support Kat. She still loves you guys. It's okay.
Yeah, of course.
And so I shouldn't pray for downloads then. That's not a proper prayer. I got to take that. No, I pray to not be crazy, right? I pray to keep me in tune. I pray to like, I just pray to like be part of the plan. You know what I mean? Sometimes I pray for downloads once in a while when I'm feeling really weak. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So what came first? Tattoos, punk rock, drinking, or demonology?
Music came first. I started playing music at a very early age. I was playing classical music, like being classically trained since I was 5. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So, I was brought up on a healthy diet of Beethoven and Chopin, Mozart, that kind of stuff, which I still love till this day and still play. And so I would say music was first and foremost.
How's your piano playing right now?
Pretty good. Maybe like a 7.
So you could fuck it up a little bit on the piano if there's a piano.
Oh yeah. I read sheet music, so that's the one thing that's a little bit of a downfall. I wish I was like Little Richard and could just sit down and play my feelings, but I have to actually like read. Like even my own songs that I write, I get transcribed and actually read and play. But some people think that's impressive, and I think I don't know. All my singer songwriter friends, they tend to just play from the heart, and I think that's. I'm envious of that.
So music, classical music first, and then did the rebellion happen? Like what was the band? Was it the Misfits or the Ramones? I read both.
Oh, Misfits for sure. I like the Ramones, but I love the Misfits and Sam Hain and Danzig, all that stuff. Yeah, I got into punk rock music first, and then that was like, I think that really spoke to me because I feel like when we moved to America, I was born in Mexico. We moved here. We lived in the middle of nowhere, and I never really felt like I belonged, like even within my own family unit, like something was different, I think. And so well, my first record that I ever got was the Plasmatics. And I just remember seeing Wendy Williams, like, you know, sitting on a Cadillac that was driven into a pool, and she had a mohawk. And I was just like, like, who is this being, you know? And I really connected with that outsider mentality. And also, you know, as a kid, you want to fight for things. You know, I got into a lot of like the peace punk stuff, and you know, you want to have like this cause to fight for. But then once I, you know, graduated to like metal really spoke to me, because I think my classical music background, you know, I was like, I loved the technicality of scales and like showmanship. And so it wasn't just like power chords, like, meh, meh, meh. It was, you know, like Dio was an actual excellent singer, and like, you know, Iron Maiden, all that stuff. And then once I discovered like post-punk, like, you know, The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Depeche Mode, that's where I was like, okay, this is where I belong, because I love the poetry. I love the capability of singing, and then the musicianship, you know, the analog synthesizers and things like that.
Right. And I like the post-punk stuff. I always wanted to get into post-punk, but I never found the right way into it. When I was a kid, I was like scared of punk rock. I was terrified of metal. I was like scared. Really? Yeah. But I'm a big nerd from New York City. It's a total different thing. Cause like there aren't like metalheads wandering around Manhattan. Like, you know, it's just, it was a different thing. And I was a very fearful person growing up, which is probably why I became a heroin addict. But so you're a young punk or post-punk metal person. What was first, tattoo or taking your first drink?
So I started tattooing when I was 14, and, you know, I think it was like my late teens where obviously you experiment. You know, I drank for the first time, like some Boone's Farm or some garbage alcohol, you know, and it wasn't anything like, I was like, oh, like, I'm just going to destroy my life. I really didn't start doing drugs until my 20s. And, you know, it's probably the same story you've heard a million times over. I think it's just a form of escapism. And I tend to graduate very quickly. You know, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm just going to dabble here. I'm just like, I went from, you know, experimenting to an 8-ball a day. And, you know, it was quite quick. And I was already tattooing professionally by then. And the thing is that I fell in love with tattooing so deeply from the first time I ever did a tattoo. And so I remember making a promise to myself that, like, if anything ever got in the way of my art, that I would delete it. And, you know, that included relationships or whatever, you know, like a lot of boyfriends would be like, you work too much. And I'm like, see ya, you know? And then I think when the drinking and the drug, I mean, I stopped doing drugs first and still continued to drink. And then that came to a head once I at that point, I was already filming LA Ink out here and running my tattoo shop and everything. And I didn't show up to work. And usually I was pretty high functioning. So I was still showing up. And I just remember, like, it just felt like I turned my back on my art. And it was simple, you know, it wasn't easy. It was simple. I just made the decision, like, no more. And I went through my phone, deleted all my drug dealers' numbers, all my party animal friends. And it was a bit of a lonely experience in the beginning. But I think when you filter out that kind of, you know, companionship, you end up making room for other people that are on the same level. And I quickly, like, gained friends that were also sober or just didn't drink or do drugs and had more meaningful relationships.
I hear you. What was it like? Like, cause you were actively drinking and using when you started becoming famous. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. I mean, I was drinking and doing drugs before that, but like,
all right, tell us more. I want to dive into your drinking and drugging career for a second. Cause the Dopey Nation loves that stuff.
Well, I guess, you know, I think there were some things that I kind of subconsciously blocked out. And then most recently, Paris Hilton came out with, like, this documentary about being put into
the Provo Canyon School.
Yeah, they call it a school, but it's like a lockdown facility. And she reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, I heard that you went to Provo as well. Would you be open to talking about it? And I'm like, sure. I haven't thought about that stuff in so long. You know, I went to therapy for that, and I feel like I worked through it and just, like, let it go. But the more I relived some of that stuff and seeing her documentary, like a lot of it, they didn't allow cameras inside, obviously, or else people would see the abuse. But she had like an artist animate like some of the scenarios that happened at Provo. And when I watched the documentary, like there was like a specific like padded cell area. And when I saw the animated version of it, like all these thoughts kept coming back. And I turned 16 years old in there. I was in there for, over 6 months. And I was like, holy shit, I think that's when I started really drinking, was when I got out, where you're drinking not for fun, you're drinking to like escape your mind. And so, yeah, I think the drinking really started shortly after that, kind of in and out of it. And then once I got into my 20s and started filming a show in Miami, I really felt out of place. It wasn't a happy working environment. And that's when I started like just going hard. It was like an everyday thing. I would wake up, drink, get high to keep going. And then to avoid the hangover, I would start it all over again. And so it was a daily practice. I would have like, days when I didn't have drugs, and I would come down pretty hard and, have suicidal thoughts and things like that. And then once I got my own show in LA, that's when it kind of just came to a head.
It's so crazy though, because you were a tattoo artist from humble beginnings, from modest means,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got propelled to this ridiculous level of fame. Like, did you anticipate that happening? Did you have like this belief that because of your talent or because of who you were, like in the back of your mind, you were like, well, I'm going to be a tattoo artist on this weird little show in Miami, but I know the Kat Von D brand is right around the corner. Like, was that in your head?
No, absolutely not. I was in like Finland tattooing like all my favorite metal bands and getting wasted when they gave me the call about coming onto the show. And I just, I didn't have a TV at the time or anything. And I had zero interest in being on TV. And I also was very confused. Like, who would want to watch a TV show of people tattooing? That's like the most boring thing I've ever heard. Like, we're just sitting there doodling for hours. But then, they did a great job at storytelling. But I ended up signing contracts wasted without a lawyer and didn't realize I was kind of signing my life away. And I just did it all under the idea of, well, there wasn't that many female tattooers at the time, and the ones that were around kind of sucked. And I just was like, I should do this because I want to be a good representation of tattooing. And it was really just about the art. And I had no idea that it would propel me to where I am now, although I'm very grateful for it. And so, yeah, like I said, I always felt like an outsider. I never thought, anybody would find me appealing. And, I have like a manly voice. I have bad posture. I don't dress like everyone else. And somehow there was people out there that really related, I guess. And it just blew up. So I think there were some pressures from that probably contributed to me delving more into my, drug abuse and drinking, the unnatural pressure of letting, you don't want to let people down. But I quickly learned that you just can't please everybody,
When I was young, I had a tiny TV show like in Manhattan, like a little music show, and I would interview bands and stuff. And that's when I became addicted to heroin, like to deal with insecurities, to deal with worrying, to deal with neuroses, to deal with not wanting to think about what I was going to say when I was on camera, that kind of stuff. Like, did you have that kind of experience when you were in Miami? You're like, no, you're a fucking idiot.
No, it's not that. It's just, I guess I've just like never felt like I had something to lose by being anything else other than myself. Like, I've never been camera shy in a sense, like I've never been like driven by it. Like, ooh, I want to be famous or I want people to know who I am. It was just more like, what you see is what you get. And that's all I have. Like, I don't know how to be anything else. So there was never any fear of, and maybe that was just from like that punk rock upbringing, where you just don't give a fuck. And I think perhaps that authenticity is what people responded to. But no, I don't think that was my case. I was never like a nervous person or like self-conscious in that sense. I'm probably more self-conscious now as a sober person.
That makes sense. What was like, cause you had a big blow up in Miami with one of the dudes and they're like, let's give her own show. At that point.
Well, I think people, they just see the edited scripted version.
Of course.
But the reality was that I had already gotten my show, and that was the main reason why the other cast member was so upset. I think he saw that like the ratings were, because every person on TV has their own individual rating. And so when the network saw that like people were responding, the more screen time I had, that eventually, would replace his show. And I think that, it felt very threatening to his ego. I'm assuming, he's a pretty egoic person, but, I just wanted to go back home. I never actually lived in Miami. They would just fly me to film. And so, I had my life in LA and I missed it very much. And so I was just happy to get out. And also my new contract nullified the old one, which they owned, my firstborn.
Well, that was good. What about just the using in that period? Like how crazy was it? Like how manageable was it just to be on a TV show doing really high end art on people's bodies while fucked up kind of?
Yeah. Like I said, I was pretty high functioning in the beginning. I think all the way up until I started my own show, and then just things started falling apart on behind the curtains. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I've always said like tattooing was a lifeline for me in a lot of ways. It allowed me to like navigate through tough times, like, because it is pretty meditative, when you're tattooing, at least for me, I'm so hyper focused on the very tip of a needle and executing something that to be as accurate as a portrait. Everything, the whole world could be crumbling and it wouldn't matter. I would just be in that moment. And I think that was good for me. It kind of helped me get through a lot of those tough times. I wasn't doing drugs while I was on camera. I would just film my bit and then I would go home and get high. Yeah.
So you wouldn't use before the show, you'd use after.
I mean, if I was taking like an upper or something like that in the morning, but I wasn't, actively drinking and getting high on camera or anything like that.
Can you think of a fucked up story of that time that you might want to tell us? A good solid dopey story around the end of your using career at LA Inc.
I mean, it's kind of depressing, but
good.
I remember good, but it needs to get depressing for you to get out of it. I mean, if not, you would just do this forever until you die. But I remember like towards the end, we would go out all night, and in LA, obviously the bars close around 2. So we would use my tattoo shop as kind of like the after hours party. And I think, I was pretty miserable inside, even though I was partying on the outside. And we would come back to the shop and I would just destroy everything. We just had tons of bottles, anything that was breakable, anything glass, whatever. Me and my friends would just destroy it and laugh about it. And I think there might be some footage flying around of that somewhere that my friends have. And I remember like blacking out and waking up in the middle of the shop and on this like massage table that we used for tattooing. And I was just like surrounded by glass and I was barefoot, mostly naked, and like thinking like, how am I going to get off of this island? And like our housekeeper that would come and clean the shop once a week came in and he just like broomed a little pathway to where I was. And he just saw what a wreck I was. And he was just like, I don't think you're okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm like physically destroying my life before me, and it just took this total stranger to like tell me what a fuck up I'd become. That was kind of like the first indicator that I might have to make some changes. But yeah, I mean, I remember like my first time doing speed, for example, was on total accident. We would go to this strip club called Crazy Girls at the time. And, we didn't really go for the girls because our drug dealers were there, and we drink until we couldn't stand and then get high. And then I just remember at one point I was ragdolling it, and some random stripper was like, I'll take you home. And I'm pretty sure she was probably just going to try to rob me or something. And I was like, I just got to get home because I have some coke. And I know if I do some coke, I'll be okay. And we get to my little shitty apartment and, I was so drunk I couldn't find anything. And she was like, don't worry, I have something, and I just remember her pouring out a line and it just hurt so bad. I remember going like, oh, this is not my usual, and I was like 48 hours later, like driving to the desert, just trying to kill this high that was like, I'm like, how could people do this every day? Like, I couldn't understand it. But, it's just like that kind of, I guess, what I would consider loser behavior now. It was like pretty pathetic. I thought it was like having fun. And in reality, it was just like desperateness, chasing more desperateness. And And it's funny because, not funny, but it's interesting. I'll get comments sometimes of people saying like, I want the old cat back, and
it's like, which cat is that?
Like,
which cat do they want back?
I think they want like season 1 or something. And to me, I'm like, why? Like, if you really knew how much pain I was in, why would you want me to go back there? I don't ever want to be that. I'll never be that person again. I know that in my heart,
So when they're saying that they want the old cat back, and you're referring to season 1 cat, like what, like, because everybody wants, like, I think about it all the time. You want to be like, if you could be on drugs and happy, joyous, and free, like that would be great, but you can't be on drugs and happy, joyous, and free. The two things just don't go together. It's like you can be happy, joyous, and free, or you can be on drugs. And usually being on drugs, you get misery and enslavement and death and fucking poverty.
Always.
So like when they talk about season 1 cat, like what were they describing?
I just think they probably are, I was a lot wilder and, I probably dressed crazier or whatever.
Was it a more provocative cat, like drunk and like having fun?
Probably. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but I think that's part of growing up. Like, I don't want to be 21. Like, like, yeah, I don't know. I think the real fans like to like go on your journey with you, and they like to see you grow and become whoever you are. And I feel like I'm a pretty consistent person. I feel like I kind of look the same, for the most part. Maybe a tiny bit more refined, but like, still rough around the edges.
No, I get it. So you described this guy who had to sweep away the glass for you to fucking get off the table. Like that sounds like the beginning of a bottom, but you've also said like you made a decision. You're like, fuck it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to sacrifice my art or my work for this, and I'm done. And that was just it.
No, I mean, I remember the day that I got sober. The day that I got sober was I woke up to like a note from my boyfriend at the time. And, he was like, I've dated a lot of assholes, but he was one of the good ones. He was just, he was actually sober. And I remember I used to make fun of him for it. And it pains me that I was that, but I just didn't, it's like, almost like, unless you go through it, you really don't understand it. Like what sobriety means. It's like,
sure,
it is a matter of life and death. And like, and if some people need to go to AA, like, I personally don't, but like for those that need it and it helps them, like, that's great, like, and I used to just, was relentlessly like punishing him all the time for it. But I remember the morning that I woke up to like a letter from him, and he was saying, I just can't do this anymore. Like, after the way you acted, and just the fact that I couldn't remember what happened. So like, I didn't know what to apologize for. That was like when I was like, okay, I got to stop. I've never made like personal amends with him because, we didn't break up in a nice, cordial way. And I'm sure he's doing great because he's a great guy. But, I've made amends in my heart.
Living amends. They call that living amends.
Yeah.
Now, how much coke were you doing at the end?
An 8-ball or more a day.
So when you put it down, like you didn't go to detox or treatment or anything.
No, I basically, like, my boss at the time, he was, a fellow tattooer. I always say his name is Clay Decker, and he saved my life. And I don't think I've never told him this, and he probably doesn't know this, but like, my come down was pretty brutal. Like I literally couldn't scrape myself off the floor, and I wanted to kill myself so badly, but didn't even have the energy to do that, And I remember he came to my apartment and was like, Kat, get up. We're going to go and draw. He just got me in the car, and I went to the shop. He had like a little balcony above like his own personal private station. And we just started drawing together. Sometimes it just takes that one day, if you can just get past or first few days, it gets better, but man, the first few days are always, I think, the hardest.
Totally.
But no, I've never, aside from visiting my friends in rehab, I've never, gone to one.
Well, good for myself. You. It sounds like that day you were like, wait a second, I can have fun and I can be into something and I don't need to be fucked up. And like, that was probably inspiring.
Maybe. I don't know if I had my mind wrapped around it as clearly as that. I just knew I can't do this anymore. That's all. Like, I don't know how, but I just can't do this anymore.
And you never went to meetings? That was never part of the story?
I went to meetings with, when people in my life were going through it, but I just, I don't ever want to talk shit about AA because I love the big book. I think everybody would benefit from doing the steps, even if you're not doing drugs. But I think I have a problem with certain meetings not having like the anonymous part in there, and at the time was like Twitter days, I remember, and I would go to meetings with friends and people would tweet about it. And so I just stopped going. I know that there are more private meetings, like people have like smaller meetings at their homes and things like that. And I don't know, I've always been kind of a lone wolf about things. Like I don't like group therapy. I like to just have one-on-one. And so I just did the steps on my own. I just, read the book and worked through things on my own. And that worked better for me. But there's some people that need it. Some people need to go 3 times a day and that works for them. I like to think of like, where's the 13th step when you can move the fuck on? I don't consider myself an addict. And I know that this is something that people in AA don't agree with. A lot of them, they think like you're an addict for life. It's like, no, I'm sober. I know myself at this point. There is no other option. I look at my child and I'm like, sorry, that's like a hard no. Like, it doesn't matter how bad it gets. Like this is the time where we need to be the clearest. And, I don't get the temptations that some people get. Like if it's around me, I just want it the fuck away from me. Like as far as drugs go. Drinking, I can be around people drinking. Unless you're like a drunk, stupid, I just can't be around you.
Right. So I got sober in 12 steps, and I don't know that I quote unquote needed it, but it saved my life. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But if I had been famous, like if I had a fucking tattoo show in New York City, I don't think it would have worked out for me either. Although there were a lot of famous people at a bunch of the meetings I went to. I think I went to early, like really early morning meetings, or maybe the meetings that I went to were respectful, or maybe New York City is more respectful than Los Angeles. I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, LA, it's like, it's full of actors and famous people. So like, that's the part that I think that like some people go to meetings just to like, be elbow to elbow with somebody, right. And it's not necessarily about sobriety. Horrible. Which at the same time, like, hey, if that gets you there, that's cool. But like, I just think that's kind of like a false. You're just replacing an addiction with something else. But like I said, I think like most of my famous sober friends, they go to private meetings at people's houses. They're not trying to engage in that, like the social aspect of it, I guess.
The fellowship, they call it the fellowshipping.
Yeah,
I hear you, and I mean, like the way I look at all of it is like, if you're having a nice life, like perfect. You know what I mean? If you need program, great. If program didn't serve you and you found something else, great. It's like, it's working for you. So it's not like you better go to a meeting, Kat Von D. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it. It's all working.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, I have like 15 years under my belt at this point. So I'm like, if I haven't learned the lesson by now, like, come on.
But people, don't you know anyone that's had 15 years and went out?
Yeah.
It's like, or I know people that have had 30 years and have gone out, and it's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, I'm not tempted to use. I'm like you. I'm not around people on drugs ever.
Yeah.
Once in a while I'm around people drinking and it annoys me. And if it gets beyond annoying, I leave. You know what I mean? And I'm not interested in being in that situation because there's nothing I can really do except leave. Yeah. That's my only real move. But like,
exactly.
This is the thing. When you say you're about to, you just celebrated 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when people get 15 years and fuck up, I mean, like, I'm not insinuating that you are going to fuck it up, but like, how do you like make peace with that in your head?
I just know myself. And I think there's certain things at my core that I know I'm like, so to me, I just see it as not an option. Like when I got pregnant, I was smoking. Like I was smoking. I didn't know I was pregnant. The minute I found I was pregnant, I just stopped. Like there's no other option. And that's just, and for some people, it's not so cut and dry. Like I said, there's some people that need that constant support and that they're not able to be in certain scenarios without gambling. And for me, it's like, I've been around those since I've been sober. I just know myself. It's like not, I mean, I can't tell the future, obviously, but if I had to bet like my life on it, I would.
No, I hear you. Do you miss smoking cigarettes at all?
No, I still go back on and off on cigarettes.
Nice.
We had I did really good after I had my kid. I didn't smoke for, I started smoking when I was 12 years old. So, and then I started really smoking a pack a day when I was 14. So that's kind of been a very consistent, I think that's my only real substance or whatever. I don't consider it a drug in that sense, but I still think I'm sober. But we had a really crazy break-in not too long ago here at the house. And, probably the scariest experience I've had in my entire life. And that kind of pushed me to smoke cigarettes again. But I just go on and off now.
Yeah. I mean, at my meetings, I stand near the smokers because I want to vicariously
you live through them.
Yeah. I want to vicariously smoke through them. I have one last question before we go.
Yeah.
It's not
Make it a good one.
It's not that good a question.
Okay.
Because you were drinking heavy and you're doing coke heavy and it seems like you had some speed meth experiences. Mm-hmm. Did you ever want, when I think of those drugs, all I can think of is pills, benzos. I fucking lived for them. Did you have any benzo?
No, I never went to your side of the railroad tracks. I was I was always I want to get shit done. So the idea of any downers, I was ugh, I can't. That's why pot never really appealed to me. I had friends that would eat that shit like candy and I just never understood it,
Yeah, no, I was that friend.
But I also knew with heroin, I was oh, I'm never I just know I would love it way too much. I'm not even going to try that. That's just, I'll kill myself,
And you're fucking moving to Indiana, to a haunted mansion in Indiana, and you never lived in Indiana.
No,
you're just
I found this house basically because I love Victorian houses, and this house in particular, I've always had my eye on, but it was operating as a bed and breakfast for years. And then when it went on the market, I told my husband, let's just see it. I just want to see it. Aside from being on tour in Indiana, I have no idea about that state at all. And all my friends who live in Indiana, they've never heard of this little tiny town because it's in the middle of nowhere. And we went there and we just loved it. We just feel there's just so much nature. You're right on the Ohio River. It's got 14 acres of land, and that is appealing to us. I've lived in LA and Hollywood a majority of my life, and I'm good. We'll still have a place out here to come because I have my studio and all my bands out here and stuff. So we always make music out there, and I kind of don't really want to bring LA out there. I want to kind of keep that separate. But yeah, we're excited. We're just waiting to sell the house here and then we'll move.
See, I also think that's interesting. I'm an amateur musician, and I always wanted to be in a band. And I was in a band when I was a kid, and we had a tiny deal, and and nothing ever happened. But then when file sharing happened and people weren't making millions, my dream kind of was you're not, I lost my dream of being in a band. But you went for being in a band after all the greed of money making and rock and roll celebrity was over. Will rock and roll celebrity come back, Kat Von D?
I don't know. I think the way that I always approach things is does it make my heart sing? When I got into tattooing, I didn't get into tattooing because I thought I was going to be on TV. I did it before TV shows when it was not cool to tattoo, when you were throwing your life away, I just knew in my heart that's what I wanted to do. And music has always been there alongside that. And so, I had a makeup line that was extremely successful. I did that for 12 years and I was probably happy the first, 7 to 8 years of that. And then after that, it just got so big that it became so corporate that I was I lost creative control over a lot of stuff. I'm this isn't really filling my cup anymore. And I just saw that everybody was coming out with a makeup line, and I was oh, the piece of the pie is getting smaller. I'm I'm going to cash out while it's hot, and then I can really focus on my music, which is what I wanted to do. I think at the end of the day, it's obviously, we want to make a means to an end. And, maybe I'm choosing the hard route because, music, it's not there's money in it now in certain ways, but I'm not doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because I have to. It's in me, and I want to, release these thoughts and songs that are in my mind and share them with my fans. So if it becomes a success, and I think it has been pretty successful, then that's icing on the cake,
Totally. And you're having fun.
I think if you go into anything going I need to be famous or I need to do this, it's you already killed the magic, you know?
Right. Luckily when we did Dopey, we had both thoughts in our head. Number one, that it would be nothing to anybody. And number two, that it would be everything to everybody. You know what I mean? Like the same thought at the same time, even though they were diametrically opposed.
And they're both true, you know?
Well,
like
one is more true. One is more true than the other.
What I'm saying is that like people respond to, like, you know, when I released my music, like there were certain singles that I was like, wow, like people were responding to certain lyrics that like I don't personally feel that way anymore because I wrote those songs 10 years ago, but I know what it feels like to feel less than nothing or to be alone in a relationship. And it's like, oh, like that's just so, well, I mean, I guess because I'm such a huge music fan that like to me there's like certain songs that are like soundtracks to my life, you know, I would tattoo those lyrics on me, you know, and I'm like, whoa, like I've been tattooing people one-on-one and giving them that experience on an intimate level. And through music, I'm able to do that like in a bigger way and it's or a broader way. And I love that. I think it's cool. And, you know, I think what you're doing is really awesome too. I mean, we can obviously laugh about like the crazy times, but if it makes people out there feel less alone, I think there's like a bigger picture to it. And I think that's something to be proud of.
Well, I appreciate that. Did you have a good time? Was this a nice hour?
I did. Hopefully I wasn't too boring. I'm sure other people have like crazy stories.
Listen, Kat Von D, I'm sure you have crazy stories in there as well. And when you come back, you will tell the worst drug stories that ever happened. No, I think you were great. You were super fun. And I really appreciate you coming on. Okay.
All right. Let's do it again sometime.
So that was Kat Von D. And I wanted her to be on the show for a long time because, like, she seemed like a very famous addict in recovery person. So I was psyched that she came on. But you know what I wasn't psyched about, Aurora?
What's that?
I had to cut a bit out. Do you want to hear about this?
Yeah, why? What is it?
All right. So all I really wanted to talk about was Kat Von D as an anti-Semite. Because for years, everybody was talking about Kat Von D is an anti-Semite. And me being such a stalwart Jewish person, I needed to find out the truth. And she said she's not an anti-Semite. But then after the show, she asked the booker for me to take it out of the show. So that's out of the show. I'm still thinking about calling the show Kat Von D is not an anti-Semite. And we're definitely doing a Patreon episode where I play her answering that question. What were you about to say?
Do you think that it's just really painful for her? Like, and that's why she wants it out?
I just don't think she wants the word anti-Semite and Kat Von D to come out of the mouth at the same time anymore. I think she's tired of that.
Yeah.
Well, who does? The answer is Kanye West. He does.
Right.
He loves being an anti-Semite. Have you noticed what's happened with him?
It's costing him a lot of money.
I mean, you don't think it's part of some master plan to sell Yeezy sneakers on his own where Adidas doesn't get a cut?
I don't know. I mean, is that what you think is going on?
Well, I think he's mentally ill and he hates Jews and he loves Hitler.
But I saw that there was one thing I saw online that was pretty powerful, that there are 15 million Jews worldwide and Kanye has 18 million followers.
I think he has 30 million Twitter followers and there's 15 million Jews. It's fucked up.
That's a really scary thing. Like, that is scary.
Well, I think the thing that people don't realize how few Jews there are, number one, and number two, they don't realize what it means to be a Jewish person and have somebody who's so famous decide that they think Jews are bad. Like, that's scary. That's a bad position to be in as a Jewish person, and it's kind of kicked off the Holocaust.
Right.
It probably kicked off the Spanish Inquisition too, or wherever else they killed Jews. They killed Jews in the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Yes, I think so.
Well,
I'm no history major. Dopey Nation, if we're wrong, please school us.
Please don't tell us. I don't want to know about it if we're wrong. Aurora, what is your...
do you think this is the end of Kanye? Is Kanye getting canceled now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I don't. You're more of a news person than I am, and you're more entrenched in the entertainment community. So why don't you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely hurting him. I mean, he's lost all these sponsorships and his agent. But he might buy Parler, this right-wing social media site. So, I mean, and with Elon taking over Twitter yesterday, I mean, there's definitely a backlash like against, being canceled even for being anti-Semitic. So Kanye definitely has an audience here in the United States and quite a large one too, that, want to revel in these, in anti-Semitism. So,
well, do you think any kind of defamation of any other people would be acceptable publicly? Like black people, so and so and so, like that is your take, or Spanish people are evil, or like whatever he basically said Jews are evil.
I mean, didn't Trump in 2015, 2016, when he was running, say like Mexicans were like, murderous, drug dealing, like, he said terrible things about Mexicans. So it's like, yeah, that stuff does happen.
It's a grim, it's a grim moment, and it's a grim moment in Dopey that we're going down this path. But you, Aurora, worked on reality TV, and specifically, you worked on tattoo shows. What was the show you worked on?
Yeah, I worked on Ink Master for a season, and Kat Von D's ex-boyfriend was one of the judges, and then he eventually had to step down from being a judge on Ink Master because photos surfaced of him in blackface.
Wow, look at all these fucking racist tattoo people. It's unbelievable.
But I don't know that Kat Von D is a racist or anti-Semite. We don't know.
No, she said she's not. She's neither a racist nor an anti-Semite. I was talking about Kanye. Do you have any tattoos, Aurora?
Hell no. Mm-mm.
And are you a racist or anti-Semite?
No, I'm not.
Do you think that's a coincidence?
Yes, I do.
Now, as a person who worked...
I don't think they're related, Dave.
As a person who worked in reality television on tattoo-type shows, did you have any insight to Kat Von D on this one?
Just that her ex-boyfriend was one of the judges. That was the only insight that I had. And I think maybe some people I worked with worked on her tattoo show as well. But I only worked on that for one season. It was not the right fit for me, so I did not return. But I do have many good friends who worked on that show for many seasons, and really got into that world
of racists and anti-Semites.
Of tattoos.
Now,
the tattoo.
Aurora and I have been working on this episode for probably 4 weeks now. And a lot has happened this last week, and I just want to talk about it for a second. On Monday, I think, or maybe Tuesday, Susan got very sick, and she threw up in her bed, and I had to sleep with her. And in the middle of the night, I went
in the throw up.
I didn't sleep in the throw up. She threw up before I had to sleep with her, but she woke up throwing up. It's terribly scary because that's how Jimi Hendrix died. But of course, Susan wasn't on barbiturates and alcohol, so she survived. And I went to the bathroom, and my other daughter, Nora, as anybody who listens to the show knows, she's been using what?
Do you know that sometimes I daydream about going back in time, and that I was able to like rub shoulders with Jimi Hendrix and kind of infiltrate his inner circle and stop his death from happening.
Well, this is an interesting tangent. Tell me more.
I mean, I have that fantasy about a lot of different people, that I could go back in time and stop people's deaths, or I go back in time and stop the Golden State Killer from killing, or that I show up at Jimmy's a famous Woodstock, and I'm there singing every lyric, and Jimmy's like, who is this woman, some transfixed, and then I'm and then I get Jimmy sober, and then he doesn't die.
That's amazing.
Do you ever have those fantasies?
No, I don't. But I do have a recollection of when I was living on Grand Street, right? And and it was the last night. I think it was before I got sober, like the last night, and I was crazy. And you were over there, and I was not well. I remember sitting on the balcony, and I was bugged out, and I was not doing well. And I don't know what we were doing, but we were listening to music, and we were probably getting high. And the movie, or the song Sunshine Superman by Donovan came on, right? And and you start walking away from me, and you did some weird 60s dance to yourself that you didn't even know that I could see you doing. And I think you would have fit in well in the 60s. I think you're a real Austin Powers type. You could have been a real character. And I think that could have been a TV show. Like Aurora goes back to the past to right the wrongs, to fix things. Like it's like a Quantum Leap kind of show.
Right. I go to Jimmy. I go to Janice. I go to Kurt Cobain. I go around.
I can't believe you actually daydream about stuff like this. Is this true, or is this a bit that you've been working on?
No, I swear to God, it's true.
All right, so back to the story. I went to get medicine for Susan, and I guess I stepped in this super silky hair straightening product that was on the floor, and I go back and I give Susan her medicine, and then I go downstairs, and my feet have this super silky chemical on it, and I slipped on the stairs. I probably was midair, and I landed on my back on the steps. Fucked. Just fucked. And my back is still all fucked up. I have like bruises all over my back. And then later that day, Susan got pneumonia. She was dying. So it's been a rough week over here. It's not been an easy week. And I was thinking about God's will. What's your take on God's will?
I think like I've said this before, I think like the hardest AA prayer for me to ever remember is thy will be done. Like the most simple one is like one that I think I probably had 4 or 5 years before I could even like recall it, or reach for it. And I think, but I do find the 11th step, like, what do you pray for? The knowledge of God's will for me and the power to carry it out. Like, I like how simple like that direction is, like, and when you're searching for something to pray for.
Because like pneumonia can kill people. And I was scared, like I wanted to pray that God not let Susan die. But then that's not how my belief of God works. Like, I don't think you pray for somebody not to die. And I think Jimi Hendrix was meant to die. And I think Janis Joplin was meant to die. And that was God's will, because it happened. God's will is what happens, is my understanding. Although, Better Call Paul, my old sponsor, said that God's will is just doing the next right thing and serving God. But I don't want to go down the crazy AA path.
I think it's just too, for me, like I like to think about people's life and death and like just frame it in God's will is not a comfort. It's like, it's the opposite of comforting, that's really like to say something like someone dying is God's will is just, it's not something that I think is helpful for people. Or for me. So
you think what's better is, they're in a better place now.
Yeah, something that gives like kind of a more peace, more solace than, that was God's will.
Yeah, I don't know. I think no matter what, when we lose somebody, it's rough. Now I have choices for you. Okay, we have choices right now, Aurora. Do you want to hear the email about the kid who died on the show? Or have you ever seen the movie School of Rock?
Yes.
Well, do you remember?
A long time ago.
There's a character in the movie. She was the bass player. She was probably 10 years old when they did the movie. Now she's a famous LGBTQ person in recovery. And she has a movie coming out. And I told her I would put an ad for her movie on the show if she sent in a Dopey story. And she did. So you want to hear her Dopey story real quick?
What's the story with the person that died?
We'll do that one afterwards. Let's do this one first.
All right, let's hear them both.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name's Riv. And back in the days when I used to do drugs and drink alcohol, I was willing to go to any lengths to get drugs and alcohol. So sometimes that included going to little parties in Sherman Oaks where a guy would pay me money to do weird sex stuff with him, and he would also give me Coke and Molly in return. He would mix it together and call it Kokomo. And one of the times I went over there, I did some of this said Kokomo. And because the product was so strong and, you know, I was also a stoner, so I had some in and out before I went over to this party. Did the Kokomo, and I did in fact shit myself. Luckily, you know, a good hoe always brings backup clothes and underwear, so I was able to dispose of them. I did just like open a window and throw them outside, and sure, they were found much, much later, but pretty gross, pretty gnarly. Yeah, it was just one of those moments where I had to be like, excuse me, I will be right back. And I'm grateful to be sober to this day. Yeah, I think that story doesn't need much more detail.
Well, I don't think she felt good about doing that afterwards. What do you think, Rory?
Did I ever tell you the story about when I shit myself? I wasn't even high. Oh my God.
What happened?
I was sick. I'd been sick for a few days and I thought I was better. And I went uptown. I was going to get my hair done at my friend's very, very, very fancy salon on Madison Avenue. It was like Madison and 80 something. And, you know, where the 1%ers go. And I was outside the salon and it just happened. And I was like horrified. And thank God I went in, I told him what happened. I went into the bathroom for like 30 minutes. I had some like dirty gym. I had gone to the gym in the morning. So I had my gym clothes with me. So I had to like wash everything out in the sink and put my like damp gym clothes on, and then he did my hair.
How much did you shit yourself? Was it just like a fart that turned out to be shit, or was it like major?
It was like between the two. I
never thought you'd come with a story like that on Dopey.
I wasn't even high. I was sick.
No, I
shit myself on Madison Avenue, and Malchior was doing my hair.
Well, there you go. I bet Malchior is someplace shitting himself right now. Fucking, I feel like I shit myself kind of recently going into my dad's to do work. I thought I was gonna fart, and it turned out it wasn't just a fart. It just happened. It was horrible. Like I threw away. I did what any good hoe does. I threw the underwear out the window, and then I took my jeans and I scrubbed them with dishwashing detergent. Scrubbed them.
What do you mean you threw your undies out the window?
Out the fucking window. Fuck that shit. That's what you do.
That's disgusting.
I didn't throw them out the window. Stop it. I washed them. I washed them. But Rivka Reyes, you know, she threw her underpants out the window. And there's a bunch of things. Rivka's story was very quick, but I liked a lot of things about it. First of all, that she's a big Hollywood star a Hollywood star, and she wanted to tell this shitting herself story. Number one, I commend her for that.
What was it? Kokomo? Kokomo sounded pretty good.
Yeah, number two, Kokomo. That sounds amazing. Coke and Molly. I've never heard of that. Have you?
No, but sign me up. I mean, no, yes.
Right?
Never heard it.
See, Kokomo, like the idea of Molly is that it's the molecule of MDMA. So like if you're putting Coke with, it's like some kind of cokey ecstasy, like uppy ecstasy. I always loved the dopey ecstasy. I feel like that was part of the name of Dopey, is like we always loved the ecstasy to be dopey. But I love putting the names together. Can you think of any drugs or combinations of drugs or nicknames for drugs that you did back in the day? Do you have any?
Oh gosh, let me think a minute. Okay.
When we lived in North Hollywood, in order to destigmatize my terrible benzo addiction, I got Todd and Jeremy to call Xanax Relaxo, so it seemed friendlier to them. And we'd be like, let's get Relaxo. So that was a thing. I can't think of another one. Kokomo is a great nickname for drugs, though.
I can't, the kill, I can't, that's all I can really think of.
Yo, the other day, I still obviously am working at Katz's, and I'm kind of supervising or coordinating these different catering events. And my guy, one of my number one cutting guys is named Jose, and he always gets high before and after the gig. And I'm talking to him after the gig the other day, and we're going over the gig, and I hear someone coughing in the background, and I was like, who's that? And he's like, yo, it's Lenny. And it was fucking Lenny was with him, wasted in the background, coughing, and they were going down to a swanky dispensary on the Lower East Side that has like a little like clubhouse to get high in.
Do you remember when you and I had the idea to open like a very
break it down, Aurora.
Very, very high end like weed dispensary. We wanted it like like almost like a high end restaurants and like the vibe. It was all about the vibe, right?
It was all gonna be blonde wood, right? The whole place was gonna be done
very
in
Scandinavian design.
Blonde wood, and the dank would be aplenty. Oh man, but
it would be very, very curated dank. There was actually I think there was just an article in the New York Times about this, about dispensaries that have that kind of, a high end look and where people can kind of hang and feel like real fucking bougie connoisseurs.
We used to be real bougie connoisseurs. Aurora?
Yeah?
Do you ever miss being a bougie connoisseur?
Yes.
How often would you say you miss the dank and being a bougie connoisseur of said dank?
Maybe once every 3 months.
There's this spot near my dad's house. I think I've talked about it on the show a number of times. It's called Cannabis Culture, and it's like 2 blocks south of Penn Station, like Madison Square Garden. And it's like, they have everything, and you could tell like it was a smoke shop, like a bong store that like saw legalization and they ran with it. And they're open at like 8 a.m, and the smells that come out of there are just awesome, great smells. And I have to say, it crosses my mind almost every time I walk past it that I could walk in there and be like, what's the purplest thing you have, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think about it, and this is just like, it might be that my workaholism has overtaken my drug addiction. All I can think about if I did it was I would not be able to do the things that I like to do now. Like I wouldn't be able to get my work done, and I wouldn't be able to be clear-headed, and it would ruin my day. And I wouldn't be able to like deal with my family in a nice way. It just wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be like it was, I still have the fantasy of getting old though. The 75-year-old rocking chair, iced bong, Allman Brothers scenario.
Right.
So getting old and stoned.
I like that. It sounds appealing. I used to yell at you for it. Now I'm like, but I don't. I think. Yeah, we've done it. I've lived it. I've been there. I did it. Things have changed. Now I think about my family. Like I wouldn't want to jeopardize that.
Exactly. I mean, let me ask you another question. With service, right? How like people say that if you do service, I hear this a lot at my meeting, and you were raised in a good Catholic household, so you might actually agree with it. The idea of if you do service and you tell people about it, it makes it less spiritually good.
I don't agree. I don't know. Like I shared earlier, like why am I going to meetings right now? It's not from a place of like, being devoted to the AA program or wanting to like, fix my spirituality. It's because like I need to get out of the fucking house. So sometimes I don't think like it really matters like what the motive is and that the reasoning has to be righteous. Like if it gets you out of yourself, if it gets you helping others, like that's good. That it doesn't diminish your acts of service because you tell someone about it. Like, you know, do you want to look at your ego and your pridefulness? Sure. Like, but I don't think if you tell people that you're doing service that it negates that.
I agree. And we, for DopeyCon, one of the old school hardcore dopes named Austin was one of the few people that was not only at the first DopeyCon, he participated in the second DopeyCon, and he was at the third DopeyCon. But Austin has a career around, helping addicts and stuff. And he brought 250 things of Narcan. So we gave out a bunch of Narcan at DopeyCon, but we didn't give out nearly enough because he gave us this giant box of Narcan. So if anyone needs some Narcan, just message me and I'll mail it to you. But Linda posted it on, all the local Facebook groups and shit, like who wants Narcan. So she came up with this long list, and I went out delivering Narcan yesterday. I was like going door to door in suburbia, listening to music, delivering Narcan. And I had a really fun time doing it. And not necessarily because maybe part of it was like the idea of being of service, but it was also nice not to think about anything. Just put a bunch of locations in on the phone and drive and listen to music. And then I'm like the paper boy delivering the Narcan. And I got home from my meeting today, and there was this woman at our house, and she wanted to pick up Narcan, and she has 2 adult addicts living in her house. They're her children, and she won't kick them out. And she was just so miserable and just trying to get help. It sucks. Addiction is the worst because there's nothing you can do for anybody, right?
Oh my God, that is awful.
What?
Yeah. No, I mean, just like the thought of that woman coming to get Narcan, and she's got 2 adult children, and she feels really powerless and helpless to help them.
Well, she was like, my son is 42. He's on Suboxone and Xanax. And I was like, you got to get him out of the house. And she's like, well, what will he do? And I was like, well, he won't get high in your house. I don't know. Like I'm kind of old school like that. Like you shouldn't keep an addict in the house and then expect them to stop using. Like it just doesn't happen.
I mean, I have a friend whose husband is an active addict, and I think, until he loses something of consequence, if you keep enabling him, he's not going to stop using.
Exactly. Now I want to read you this email. You with me?
Yeah.
So there was this kid who was on the show a long time ago. His name was Andrew, and he was a dopey intern, and he had called in. He'd left a bunch of messages, and he called into the show when Chris was alive, and then he wound up becoming our first intern, and he died the next day, right? He overdosed and died the next day. And I got this email that says, a too long email thank you from hippie hobo Andrew's old friend. And he writes, hey, Dave, I came across your podcast a long time ago and saved a few episodes to my library. I'm sure on one of my hunts for addiction and recovery-related listening material, I kind of forgot about it. Maybe because I was most interested in recovery-focused materials, even though it can admittedly be very trite and saccharine and indulgent. But a couple of weeks ago, I found myself scrolling through archived episodes of Dopey. It was early in the morning in some random shitty hotel in eastern Oklahoma where I was staying for a work assignment. The words Andrew's mom and then hippie hobo Andrew in a few titles caught my eye, and I started to get a weird feeling. One of my best friends from college, Andrew, could certainly be described as hippie hobo, and I've actually been in touch here and there via text with his wonderful mom since he died of a drug overdose years ago. I plugged Andrew into the podcast search bar and pulled up the relevant episode descriptions and dates and quickly realized that it was indeed my friend Andrew, and you and Chris interviewed him practically a week before he died. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. It took me a few days to build up the courage to listen to his interview, and Kim's, and Kim was his mother, but I'm glad I did. It was cathartic. I can't get over how strange and improbable it was for me to just randomly stumble upon Andrew's voice in the giant expanse of internet chaos. It was nice to hear him talk about huckleberries and the farm in Idaho, and it reminded me that I'd like to go visit it as I don't live too far away. I think he would have been very intrigued by my current job as a wildland firefighter. I wish he was alive so I could tell him about adventures in the wilderness and the strange anthropology of wildland fire crews and methods for setting the woods on fire. Andrew was one of my first and closest friends at college. He was amazing and brilliant, and he's one of a handful of people whose perspective and personality changed my life. I want to say for better and for worse, but I don't know if it's useful to make that distinction. So I'll instead say that he made my life more rich and complex and meaningful, even though that it ended up entailing some painful, uncomfortable experiences alongside the joyful, comical ones. We did a lot of dopey, story-worthy things together my freshman year. By the way, I've been binge listening to the podcast since rediscovering it through the Andrew episodes. We and 3 other friends did an epic week-long road trip along the Pacific coast the fall of our freshman year of college, all of us crammed into a single sedan to the beach and the redwoods, and then up to Nevada's vast and empty Black Rock Desert, where we went on a dark, stumbling adventure that involves a lot of LSD, MDMA, Kokomo, no, I'm just kidding, and nitrous oxide. We stared at the stars and walked on the train tracks and watched the Technicolor desert sunrise. We reckoned with infinity and argued about good and evil, and then ate McDonald's for breakfast. Dusty and strung out, not quite children, but certainly not adults either. This is very beautiful. Andrew also introduced me to heroin, but I would have found it anyway. I was young and determined to experience what I still naively saw as romantic, done by the most interesting and intelligent people. Total horseshit, it turns out. If you're not already boring and dumb when you start using opiates, they tend to eventually have that effect on people. At least they did for me. I haven't done hard opiates for years, but I've managed to find a whole new demon in the substance kratom. It won't kill me like heroin or fentanyl would, but I found it much harder to put down than other real opiates. And I've been abusing it for so long that it's wreaking havoc on my physical and mental health. Stimulants have also been a persistent issue for me. So with all the recent buzz about psychedelic medications and therapies, and after numerous failed quit attempts, I finally made the decision to go to Mexico for ibogaine treatment. That may have actually been how I rediscovered your podcast, now that I mention it. I was looking for stories and information concerning ibogaine, and I know you've got a few episodes that touch on it. So maybe there was something special and serendipitous about the fact that my search somehow led me to Kim and Andrew. I literally just made the deposit on treatment a couple of hours ago, which I'm not even sure I can responsibly afford. I'm scared and excited and desperate and hopeful. I'm ready to be free, and to see if being clean is all it's cracked up to be. I'm doing lots of other recovery-related work to prepare for and integrate the treatment, therapy, meetings, yoga, blah, 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 other middle-class white girl things that Andrew and I would have once rolled our eyes at a long time ago. We were dumb, and I'll let you know how it goes if you're interested. I have so much more to say, but I'll end it here since this is already obnoxiously long. I just wanted to let you all know that. Thanks for putting Andrew's voice into the ether for me to find when I needed it. Thanks for all you're doing in the world. Toodles, Dove. I love that email. I had to read it.
That was incredibly touching. I teared up. That was beautiful.
I know, and I want to hear about Dove's ibogaine treatment coming up in Mexico. Just next time, Dove, write a shorter email. It's too long.
Dove sounds ready to get sober. That's exciting.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, Aurora, how would you say being clean is versus not being clean?
I think it's a 10.
Really? A solid 10?
I mean, I have a new life. I mean, it's hard to what do I want to say here? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't always feel like a 10, right? Well,
this is for Dove. This is for Dove. Dove wants to know if getting clean is all it's cracked up to be. I'm going to say it is. Because I think, Aurora, you said it best before. You've done the other thing. The other thing is done. There's nothing new coming down the pike. Although all this psychedelic therapy sounds intriguing to me. I don't know about you, Aurora. Are you intrigued by psychedelic therapy or no?
No way, because I was psychedelically distraught. So like psychedelics like only heighten my anxiety. They don't help it.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't so intrigued by psychedelic therapy. But we'll leave that.
I mean, I think, when I got sober, I said, all right, I've been getting high for, 23 years. Like, what's life going to be like sober? And I'm almost 7 years into that journey. And, I look forward to getting more time to like having 20 years sober and kind of look back on the two lives. I mean, so far it's been amazing being sober. It's not always like that pink cloud experience. It's not always a 10, but I just think that my life has changed a lot in the last 7 years, and it's been all good. And that's because of being sober.
All right. I think that's a good answer to Dove's question. Now, before we go, I wanted this whole episode to be about the Game of Thrones spin-off show, House of the Dragon.
Yeah, we haven't even devoted any fucking time to House of Dragon.
All right, well, this is the time. I want it to be a sneak preview because there will be a Patreon episode with Aurora and I battling each other on the whatever we think about House of the Dragon. So, Aurora, the season is over. What's your take?
My quick take is that I really enjoyed it. It scratched that itch for me of that Game of Thrones, left, the void that was left. Did I love everything about it? No, but I'm looking forward to more seasons. And
all right, enough. That's the sneak peek of the Patreon episode all about House of the Dragons. There are things I liked. There are things that I didn't like. All I long for is chocolate milk of the poppy. Do you think they're going to come out with that next season on House of the Dragon?
And call it the Othello? No.
Chocolate milk of the poppy. I could go for some of that right now. Thank you, Aurora, for coming on the show. I had another dopey story, but time's a wasting, and I figured if we didn't finish this thing now, it would never get finished.
Yeah, you're going to lose me. Then you're going to hear making meatballs in the background.
What kind of meatballs are you making?
Pork and ricotta.
Very nice. All right, Aurora, thank you for coming through. Dopey Nation, please send an email, send a voicemail, leave a review, subscribe to Patreon, and you can hear me and Aurora breaking down House of Dragons and other dumb shit very, very soon. Plus, Kat Von D's take on anti-Semitism, only on Patreon. All right, Aurora, thank you again. Stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.
Thank you. Me not say dope. Wait, I fucked it up. Wait, I have more to talk about maybe for the Patreon, though. I want to talk about the Occult and Wordle.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the Occult for Halloween.
Yeah, we did. We forgot to talk about the Occult.
What are you going to be for Halloween?
I don't know yet. I'm going to give out candy, a lot of candy here at the house. I wanted to wear like a witch's wig and hat,
nice.
Which is a costume I have not in North Carolina. So I got to figure something out.
All right. Now we'll say I'm going to either be a bum, a homeless person, a wizard, or
you got the genes for any of those costumes, a bum or homeless.
Bum, homeless, sick at home, or wizard. Do you know what?
Wow, Dave, you are all those things in real life.
Do you know what the common denominator for all those things are?
Some baggy 90s jeans
and a bathrobe.
Nice.
So
perfect.
I got to find a new costume that's appropriate to wear a bathrobe for. Maybe mental patient. I think this year I'm going to be
or your corduroy coat, your corduroy blazer.
You don't like
you can swap them. They're interchangeable.
You don't like the corduroy jacket? Listen, give it 2 years. Give it 2 years, and my '90s jeans and corduroy jacket will be coming back. And I never missed a beat So we'll do it again. You do your goodbye. We'll say, stay strong, Dopey Nation. Fucking toodles for Chris. Now, Aurora, you do your thing.
Me not say toodles.
Thank you, Aurora.
Thanks, Dopey Nate. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.